Hello and welcome to another session of Fearful Symmetries, which is a Trail of Cthulhu campaign set in the interwar period for Britain. And we have one player out, and we have one player that's going to be arriving later today. So we're going to get started on that. Last week we had a little illness on my end. I won't talk about the American medical system at this point because Alan's already heard me complain about that. But there it is. So we left off last time sort of concluding the situation with the school and with Husla and that whole situation being dealt with. You seeing that there were some connections to our fascists and other figures here going on. We will assume that the daughter has been placed somewhere safe at this point, secure, that you have the resources to do that. So that is taken care of at the moment. But the thing that is hovering over the group right now is the question of heading into Fairyland and figuring out a way to heal Oberon. Last time you were also given within that letter that you received from E, or rather you intercepted from E, a couple of additional spells to add to your portfolio. That's the confirms thirsty 30, the call of the 30 ethers, confirm sacred ground, and gather ye blustery clouds. And I am of the mind to allow everybody to take another spell at this point with this sort of break point that you have here. So Isabella, you've made arrangements for the daughter to be put somewhere safe. Mm-hmm. You have a little bit of downtime. We know that our Richard has headed out to do some research. At this point, Wilford is around and about. But you have some time to deal with your own things. Arthur has to go back and check in with his practice and those sorts of things. Is there a particular spell of the set of spells we have now that you wish to learn? And feel free to consult with Arthur about this. And then B, let's talk about what you're doing in the interim.
So I think, let's see here. I had already specified that I was going to learn the one to call people to me. Mm-hmm. I think it was the second one in the Petit Albert collection. And then I definitely wouldn't mind having the one with the keen weapon.
The mirrored blade?
Mirrored blade, which sounds very, very much, since I'm quite good at throwing knives, actually. But this is
that's neither here nor there.
And axes, but
you also have the relevant arts and crafts
exactly
to go with that. Okay, so we will assume that in the interim, you've talked with Richard before this about his practice with that blade, and you've looked at that spell and worked on that and made arrangements to have access to the workshop for your father's show, to be able to have space to do that.
Okay.
What else are you doing? Are there people you want to talk to? Is there a lead you want to run down? And we're kind of very open at this point, that kind of improvisational, like let's figure out where we're heading, how we figure out a solution, that kind of thing to this section of play.
Right. And I think that this is sort of very interesting that I'm encountering all of this sort of British tradition of magic. But here's the thing. I'm part of a super long tradition of magicians. And it strikes me that there's probably buried down at the end of this, tradition, some texts as well. So I think I'm going to actually do a little thing into, essentially that stage magician stuff, because there's the whole set of standard things that, cutting a woman in half, making something disappear, pulling things out of your hat. All of these things sound like they're excellent stage mimicry of an actual set of magic spells. And since they're always repeated over and over again, I'm wondering if I can find any mention of text, if that makes any sense. Because what I'm thinking is, if I have to meet the Fae, then having something that's outside of their experience might be a good bargaining chip, distraction, a thing like that. So that is essentially something done in a way that they don't do things.
Absolutely. Let me.
Can I just say, I love the idea that the magic circle has a secret library.
Of course they do.
Uh,
But it's very dangerous, and they would rather people not learn it.
so one of the things is, of course, there is a certain amount of infernal magic, but you don't want anything quite like that, right?
No.
So let's have you make a spend on library use. It seems to me would be the appropriate spend for this.
Lord Almighty, do I even have that? Let's see here.
Or something equivalent. Do you have something that would?
I have BP too. Oh yes, I could do that. I'm not good at British libraries, but I do know how to ask questions of a librarian for something I am familiar and expert on. So it costs 3 BP for 1 point is what the price is now?
No, it is
for
1 for 1.
Holy
one.
smacks.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I will be dialing down the amount of BP that you get. By the way, I was Mr. Dempsey did point out to me that I was perhaps a little more liberal now to me, which is fine. And I do think comes out of my assuming that it was 3 for 1 on investigative. And in fact, it is that way in other versions. I wondered where I'd gotten that from it, and other versions do that shift. And it's why I had always, when I did our express versions, read things as a 1 to 3 ratio.
Ooh, okay.
Why don't we say this then?
Okay.
One of the things I think you'll find is that there are some older, like, let's say, Greek or older, even Egyptian sort of old texts that relate to the idea of magics, but also to kind of fonts of power and other versions of the ley lines.
Okay.
Let's imagine that you were able to find something that provides those kinds of tricks, but more in the context of the works that you know now from having access to magic points and so on, essentially to give you some fictional positioning to do some improvisational real magics via stage magic things.
All right.
With the spending of magic points. Does that sound like a reasonable way to handle that?
Sure. So I can make something disappear and then make it reappear as I wish. All right. That sounds excellent.
And we'll say with that, it's the kind of thing that for what we'll call incidental tricks, it'll be a simple stability spend, things like that. But if you want to do something bigger, you can spend a magic point to infuse it with that. Where do you think you find that? Like, how is that look And like, which of these languages do you think you actually know?
Um, well, I do know, let's see here, Italian. So I also know Latin because so I
So
probably get like, it's probably that Latin, and then I get to a Latin translation of a Greek text or something like that. Um,
so tell me where you find it. Is it in a library? Is it from a private magician? Is it from a collection? Like, who is
well,
it? What is it?
there is that gentleman that I met with earlier, and I do think that uh he mentions that there is a library here. And he goes, but it's very un it's not a formal library. It's kept by an older practitioner, and and it, and he's ethnic, kind of thing that he says. And then essentially I end up, and he's not in London. I have to go across the channel and into Europe
Okay.
to find him. So that would be um so
Uh,
it's a few days at least. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Let's say, just to make it simple, that he is in Calais,
Okay.
or however somebody might actually say that correctly. And it is you have to take the ferry across. And it is an older gentleman, Italian, like very old,
Mhm.
like probably born in 1850, has seen Italy go through various turmoils, and so on, and definitively not an Anglophone or Anglophile, but we'll speak with you about this, and essentially you trade on your father's reputation. What when he asks, "What is it you're looking for?" What is it you
She,
say?
she says, I wish to astound and delight. And she goes, the King of Fae.
Is a very dangerous route to take. Uh, but you have an understanding of these things, and your father is known to me, uh, as is his father and his father before him. Uh, I will give you some papers with two understandings. One is that you will promise a certain amount of caution,
Myself.
and two, uh, these do not fall into the hands of any of the Brits, any of the English. There are too many of them that are too closely tied to what is going on in Italy. I've seen the stories on them.
And she nods and she goes, that's exactly why I'm here.
They There are those who would follow the path that is happening in my homeland, like the Spanish and the English.
Yeah. Grimace when you say the Spanish, though.
Yeah.
The atrocities.
So you promise me this.
With all my heart.
When you come back through, however, and he pauses, he says, you will travel through Calais again, and you will bring me some good English toffee, though, right? You will do that?
Do you know a place?
Okay, good. Thank you. And he will pass over a collection of folio of papers for you with those materials.
All right. Thank you.
What is, though, on the trip back to England via the ferry, what is the sign or symbol or omen related to your attachment to the ethers, to those spirits, the
Zoa?
Zoa, that you see as you return back to England?
That's an interesting question because mine is, of course, Urazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Is it a vision? Is it a feeling? Is it a dream? What do you think?
I mean, I think that what it is that at every station, as we're approaching the station, there's like some august but a dilapidated building like being dismantled, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's just like for some reason it's always just before, like when she's getting ready, because you know the next stop she has to like stand up to let someone through, or that kind of thing. And so every time that there's she just notices it, and it like strikes her as, why are they tearing that down? It's old and good, and all of those things. That's just her initial thing, and then she over and over again through the trip.
Okay. Arthur, what is it that you wish to add to your magical repertoire? I mean, you really can't top what you took last time, but what do you think?
I think it's probably the 30 ethers.
Okay.
Call of the 30 ethers. We're going to need that to get across the boundary, and at least one of us needs to have it. So yeah, I think it is the call of the 30 ethers, from E's library notes, scrolls, tomes.
And I'm pretty sure Richard was doing that too, so there'll be
Yeah.
two of us. Is there an advantage to having three of us to have it, or?
Two people who have it will make it is a ritual. So I would say A, would make it easier, but also might be a higher potential for going further in, because it is a travel, a kind of a spiritual distance. Arthur, what is it about learning this ritual, learning this spell, that surprises you, that runs counter to your expectations about how these things should work?
Yes, well, we know that Arthur conceives of magic as just another branch of science we've insufficiently explored. And it's the irrational nature of it. So it is the kind of eye of newt, tongue of frog kind of approach to this. That is, there is no way that this sympathetic magic business, this idea of having to part of it is you have to cut a sheet of paper or parchment in order to mimic the idea of cutting the barrier between this plane and the next. And it relies on symbolism in a way that Arthur thinks is just, well, it makes no sense scientifically.
Well, except that you're a psychologist, right? Isn't Freud and Jung and all of that stuff?
Yes, but I mean, when I conceive of magic, my dear Miss Grimaldi, it is as something that relates to the world about us. So, for instance, I am prepared to believe that planes exist and one can travel between them, but one does that using the variety of discoveries that we've seen in physics in the last 30 years. So we know now far more about the nature of elemental particles, and it is the study of those elemental particles that will allow us to, well, I believe would allow us to breach the barrier between this and the next world.
But they've been breaching the barrier between this and the next world all along by using a symbolic way of understanding things, correct?
But that's why it makes no sense. I mean, I'm not disputing it works, Miss Grimaldi. My point is that it conforms to no understanding of science.
But it does of poetry.
Well, that's as maybe, but I frankly, if one is reduced to thinking of magic as poetry, one might as well just, cast petals in the air and cross your fingers. But then
And,
again, that may
and
be
then
what
she looks
it's
at
about.
she looks at all the text for the psychology and stuff of the air and goes, ah, really?
So yeah, I think it is that. It is the folkiness. It is the kind of it is the magicness of it
Mhm.
that he struggles to make sense of. He has to suppress his rationality because it's
Yeah.
about belief in the
It's
end.
interesting.
And you're a person who's dealt with people who've had strange beliefs. So the idea that will and belief could, in and of themselves, with symbolic works, have an impact might be a little disturbing.
It is, and it some of the cases that I've worked on, they've involved people who I consider to be mad and bad. Now I'm beginning to wonder whether they just had a different view of the world.
Mm.
And given that my faith in a usually benign God has been ruined by my recent experiences, and now I'm beginning to think that where is the anchor?
Hmm.
If it isn't science and isn't God, what is it?
So what are you doing in the interim? Are you looking into something? Do you want to do a scene with a family? How are you getting things set? Like, what would you like?
Well, yes, I mean, we know that Miss Grey, Annabelle Anne Grey, I can't quite remember.
Mhm.
Uh, we've made her safe, and I'd like to suggest that we've secreted her with one of Emmeline's friends, because we know Emmeline Whitewood, my wife, is a key member of the Ladies' League for the Advancement of Common People, and so I think she has a network of middle and upper class ladies that she calls upon when this, ask no questions, but this young lady needs, to discreetly stay away from London and just be looked after for a period of time. So I don't know whether Emmeline has some questions about where Miss Grey came from.
I think there is that. Like you could see that when she returns after having done some of this and having spoken with the young lady, she returns back and is pensive for a bit, and she says, "So that young woman, uh, she comes from a good family."
Yes, as far as I'm aware, I think the Greys were entirely respectable.
She certainly held on to that violin with something of a passion. Uh,
Well, I think it's all she has left with which to remember her parents.
I have never questioned you on the nature or dangers of the work that you have done when you have worked for Scotland Yard, when you have undertaken these most recent ventures, but the conversation that I had with that young woman has certainly given me pause.
Um,
Not the description that she gave of a certain fantastical event was less disturbing to me than the suggestion of people who meant her harm, armed with guns and thugs and ropes and so on.
I have to tell you, Emily, that I believe that there is indeed a plot, a fascist plot to do this country harm, in much the way that we read harm is being done in Italy and Germany and Spain, and in that context, I feel it is my duty to stand against such things. I have yet to share the details of that with Inspector Jepson, but I do intend to raise his concerns about some of the things that I've come across in recent months. Does that reassure you? Because Jepson is a good chap.
It reassures me as to your intent regarding the safety of England, but not to your intent regarding the safety of yourself or your family.
There are times, Emmeline, when one is called upon, and I think of the Great War, when one is called upon to take risks in defense of what one believes, and that I think is a crossroads at which I sit.
You came back from the war a different man. And
Yes,
I was willing and understood that, the nature of that, but this frightens me that you're asking me to once again let you do this, stand by as you do this. I mean, you have your own mind on this, but know that it worries me.
and I take her hand and I look deeply into her eyes, and I spend a point of reassurance.
Okay.
there is Emmeline. You are the point in my world that keeps me level and upright, and knowing that you are here for me is what keeps me that way, and what will keep me that way. It will protect me. The very thought of you protects me when things get at all stressful. That it's done so in some of the very disturbing cases that I've dealt with in the past, and it does so now.
And I think that will calm her down. And of course, everybody's things would have reset at the end of that last case. So you can go ahead and spend from that. Your stability would also, by this point, having spent some time, finally return back up to its standard level.
Yeah, and I've returned, because all my interpersonals were at 0 last time because of the impact of the ritual.
Yeah.
And our magic points as well went back up, didn't they?
Yes, I would say that you've all had time to go
attune.
And attune.
Fine.
Let me come back to Isabella. Is there anybody else you want to talk to? Anything else you want to do in this interim?
So we know we're going to have to do this ritual. We know that we need a way to heal Oberon, heal the King of the Fae. So I guess for me, it is literally a thing of going and reading everything it can find that looks old and crusty, that's about the Fairy King, to give us some sense of his nature.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have a highly scientific background on things like chemistry and stuff like that, I'm probably looking at it from some sense of guessing what his nature is, and then, like, he's called the Silver King, right? Isn't that right? So there's something that I'm looking at that to go, is that giving us a hint about how you would heal the Silver King? Certainly there are many ways to harm silver, but to heal silver, what does that mean?
what is it you want to make us spend with? Like, what do you think is
Oh,
the
that's
angle
really
here you're using?
good. Here's the thing is when push comes to shove, it goes back to occult.
Okay.
For like what the libraries are and understanding and picking up clues about that. Um, so essentially essentially that means when they just describe that way, and does that give us any hint of what we would need?
So I think one of the things is in kind of talking about alternate approaches and so on is you're looking at things that kind of have to come outside. And I think one of the things you'll realize is that this whole mention of the Silver King and so on has a very alchemical
Mhm.
sound to it.
Exactly.
And I think we'll end up with you talking with your friend Professor Winthrop.
Oh, of course, Sebastian is always he's going to think that I've made this up as just a excuse to see him again, and indeed I am delighted that it does seem to be the best way to go. So I say, and now I have to consult again.
And he ponders and he says, there are a number of routes on this. You know that there has long been a story that the Grail was brought to England. Some people associated it with Bath. There may be a literal truth there, but there is definitely a metaphorical truth there. And one of the higher conjurations involves that within the study of alchemy as a means of healing and a means of giving life. And I do know that that was the route that my mentor, McMath, had gone down. I believe that that is part of his pursuit, some version of an alchemical grail. Whether he succeeded, I do not know. But he will certainly have the pieces.
And she sort of stops because if we have to deal with Macbeth, what do we need to know?
He is a man easily given to resentments, and he is he comes from a very old family that holds to very old senses of what it means to be the lord of the land. And there's a certain haughtiness that comes from that.
So you're saying that I would be, what do you say, an irritant to him?
No, I'm saying perhaps more that anyone who is not him is considered an instrument.
Ah,
Of you, I think you might be a weirdness. I think the person who might be the irritant would be your friend, Mr. Wilford, quite honestly.
And she starts, and then she stops and goes, no, no, you're absolutely correct.
I, be careful.
And she sort of stops and she goes, so there is a thing. You are outside of this, what we are doing, but you have enough knowledge. I'm going to give you contact information for my father, just in case things go badly.
If you uncover anything and it requires alchemical knowledge, come to me and I will assist you and your companions.
I appreciate that. She goes, and she will give him the, essentially her father's contact information.
And you can see that he looks a little tired.
Right. She sort of says, you look like you're working on something as well.
No, I went to see my uncle this weekend, and as I told you before, I'm always exhausted after I spend time with him.
We've been putting that off. He said he also has a set of agendas for this.
Yes, but I do not think he is tied in with what everything that you've told me.
Do you have any sense of what he's working on?
He tells me much, but little is of any practical use.
And she goes, our foe is tied in with fascist things.
That is definitely not my uncle's. No.
No, I just say that so that whenever you see those things, understand that could be tied up in all of that.
I will. Wilford, one of the things I told the others is that there's sort of a gap of time that you have between the resolution of our situation. The young woman is put into in a safe place. Values are reset back up to their top. I think you've probably already done that, but I also mentioned that they could learn another spell if they wish to. So Isabella, in addition to the Come and See Me, has learned the Mirrored Blade, and Arthur has, besides the Nodens ritual, which is not dangerous at all, has learned the Call of the 30 Ethers ritual as well. Any of the spells that you wish to add to your repertoire?
Clearly, I don't have the link to the.
Oh, let me find the folder here. Hang on 1 second.
Ah, they're in the folder,
Yes.
which isn't in the lines and veils.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
There's 2 box.
The new spells are in the sort of archive folder that has E's letter, and then there's a spell document in the main folder.
Fearful Symmetries. I'll peruse.
Okay.
Not wanting to slow the rate of play.
Sure. So what do you think Wilford is looking into doing in that interim time? What lead are you running down?
I think our trying to get some info of the lead that is outside Colchester. I believe that's McMath, isn't it?
It is.
Yes. Yeah. How long he's owned the property, etc., etc. Yeah, and see if. I mean, clearly, I'm operating at the very wrong end of the social scale for McMath, but putting my ear to the ground in London, does his name come up? Does he visit London very often? Cab drivers move him about?
You will find sort of, and I think this is given your things, there's no spend involved with this, that he was in Oxford and was kind of disgraced and went back to his family estate and doesn't go out from there. In particular, when you talk to people who are sort of in the occult and those circles, he does buy a lot of things, has them shipped to his household out there, but he doesn't leave his house. I think that's the sort of gist you will get of that.
So not a member of any gentleman's club in London.
If he was, the sense that you will get is he hasn't been there in years.
A long, long time. Okay, that does say something about the guy, I think, quite a bit.
I'm just wondering, because one of his apprentices is in an asylum in Colchester. I'm wondering if that might be something worth having a look at.
I mean, it is only by steam train an hour and a half, maybe, from London, Liverpool Street, I think.
You could certainly check out the area. You've got enough streetwise to ask around in the surrounding areas, and you have the ability to tramp around to talk to people who know the land if you want.
Yeah, I think a visit to Colchester, get the lay of the hospital, but also try and find out some information on the main physician that runs the hospital. While it probably won't be any use to me, I'm wily enough that could add a lot of ammunition for Arthur to then go in pre-warned, really.
That seems reasonable to me, that you can get the names so that no one will have any suspicion about him and what is going on there. So what is it that you are looking for sort of on the ground there?
Are all the patients inpatients, or are there some in and out patients? People that are just treated and then leave and maybe come back on an evening, that sort of information. Definitely if there is a secure ward, where in the hospital that's located. And really, yeah, the details of the main physician. I'm thinking of maybe going in there with Arthur, maybe dressed as an orderly, and maybe looking at some method of getting this guy, at least Arthur, getting an interview with him, if not getting him out. So, I mean, what's Arthur's opinion on this?
I mean, because I'm qualified, I can gain access to the files in the hospital. But if I know more about whoever is the treating physician, that'll give me a bit of leverage, I would have thought.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you could at least interview him. As in, strike up a conversation. But maybe we do want to speak to this guy face to face, this apprentice.
No, that would be my aim.
Yeah. So maybe try and pilfer, because I think I do have filch. I wouldn't mind taking a set of, trying to get hold of some hospital sort of like porters or orderlies uniform. I think at the time it would probably only been white coat and probably white trousers, maybe. I don't really think there was much much else they're worn, really. So maybe from the laundrette, try and filch a sort of orderly outfit for myself if I am required to escort Dr. Whitwood, if we come up with some plan to extract this guy.
Absolutely. So what you will know is that a Dr. Whitwood is in charge of the facility and has been handling the therapy for this Niles Clark. And it's called the Severals Hospital is the name of the hospital there in Colchester. You will be able to find out that it's his family who pays for his incarceration. And that he is kept quite sedated. Is what you will kind of come to understand from knocking about the hospital, talking to an orderly. We'll essentially assume a streetwise spend for this. That an orderly says his screams, that's the problem. If he's allowed to stay awake for too long, the screaming starts, and it's like nothing you've heard before, just from the bowels of him, you know what I mean? Just up, and sometimes like, hey, sometimes you have to stop him because he'll start coughing up blood because he screams so much.
Do the doctors ever say what he screams about?
Right.
Or is it just screaming?
He's just screaming, and I believe me, there's none of us that really want to ask about it. The thing is, I know I've talked to him just in passing afterwards, one of his calm faces. He don't remember the screaming.
Schizophrenia. Could be. Seen it in the war.
It could be. Just
that's business.
And it's just this little, like, to look at him, he's just this little plump, round young man.
One of those.
Yeah,
I know him well from the war. Those fancy boys.
But what happened? I just don't know. Is it running the family? I don't know.
Could be. Could have seen some horrors, maybe. Someone brought back something. So he didn't serve then?
Oh, no, he's too young for that.
Too young for that? Oh, maybe it was something in the family then.
Exactly. I heard tell he was at Oxford, and then left there, and then was admitted with us.
Oh, definitely some rum things are there going on in Oxford.
Oh, absolutely.
White
Towers.
Yeah, nothing good goes on there. That's what I heard. Well,
and I think
I'll buy him another pint.
Okay.
Just to see him good.
And I think we can definitely establish that you have a layout of the grounds, a sense of that, an idea of exactly kind of how things operate in the hospital if you do need to get in and get him out. Does that sound reasonable?
I think that was actually really well spent. I think it's primed Arthur going forward. So I'm very pleased with that. And eventually, I will make my way back to, where is Arthur located? London, or are we still up in Oxford? London.
I'm in London. I'm at home.
So I will return from Colchester and maybe meet up with Arthur. Is this more outside, Arthur, or outside your family location, or is this in the scullery?
I think we meet in the park.
in the park. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think Emmeline's ready for you yet.
So I'm pulling some half-eaten bit of food out of a bin or something. Yeah,
Exactly.
waste not, want more. Well, yeah, I'll relay all this to Arthur and say, apart from he's Dr. Whitwood and you're Dr. Whitewood, I think there's a good in there. And I think maybe from his notes, you could then maybe build up and I'll fully describe the screaming, and that he was at Oxford. It might be worth maybe with somebody with some library skills maybe to find out, was he at Oxford when Macbeth was disgraced?
Oh, yeah,
I
actually,
think,
that's how
I
you
think we know
know.
that.
Yeah,
We know that. Okay.
Yeah.
you know that he was one of two young people who followed Macbeth when Macbeth left Oxford.
My feeling was that there were three of them, Sebastian and two others, Sebastian Niles and another. Sebastian
Haddon.
stayed, Tom, and the other went to Colchester with him, or went to near Colchester, and now he's one of them. Niles is in the asylum.
Let's
So
so let's do this. Let's take our first break here. We'll take 10. We'll come back and we'll start with Arthur right after the break. See how you want to follow up, and we'll kind of bring people back together then. So let's take 10. So as Arthur discovered during the break in investigating this Several's real place, you said 1,800 to 2,000 patient capacity.
Yeah. It's been open since about 1913.
So that means that it's only about 20 years old. So it is relatively new as these things go here.
Yes, it's not one of those Victorian poorhouses that was converted.
Right.
It was built to purpose, and it's basically a self-contained village.
Yes. Oh, and in the 1950s, oh, look at that. Lobotomy. Okay.
Kept up with the current techniques and everything.
So it looks like there's detached, there's some villas, things like that. There are probably a number of physicians overseeing the whole thing. And you want to make that spend to get access? No questions?
I think I do.
Okay.
An introduction to Whitwood. Let me think. So I'm spending from medicine, I suppose, am I? Where is medicine?
Technical, I think, down at the bottom.
So it is. So it is. Oh, hang on.
It's not. I can't see it in technical.
No, that's odd, isn't it?
Do we have medicine? No, medicine is up in academic.
Right. Okay. So we'll spend one of my 4 to well, this is my field, and Dr. Whitwood, I understand that you have some very interesting cases here.
Call me Martin. Call me Martin.
So
we don't get the Dr. Whitewood, Dr. Whitwood.
Indeed. That's an interesting question. Can I make a retrospective, I don't know, library use spend to find out the name, Niles' second name?
Niles Clark.
There we go. Made the spend. Yes, I've become interested in a case that I've only heard of through some connections in Oxford. A Niles Clark.
A very difficult case. Very difficult.
Well, I understand it's complex, and I suppose complex cases is my business.
No, your work precedes you.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so,
Dr.
Martin.
Whitewood. It.
Please, Arthur.
Oh, thank you. He's certainly there with a little bit of hanging, waiting for you to say that. He says, "Well, Arthur, I've certainly read of your exploits. I have a certain interest in criminal psychology as well," he says. But he says, "This is a young man who," and he doesn't even like know patient-client confidentiality. It's all.
Yeah.
It just goes right into it. This is a young man, family. Comes from some money, but from the far north. You know how that is. And he, I haven't been able to get him to speak of the exact nature, but he had a mentor figure, a guru, perhaps even a Svengali, whom he followed when this professor was dismissed from university. And from what I understand, they were engaged in occult practices, so far as they've
Really?
defined it.
Surely not.
It's very strange. I believe, my belief is that this was a cover for experimentation with drugs.
Psychoactives.
Yes, certainly the key element that I have been able to garner from him. Part of the problem is that his parents, he's not being held here for treatment so much as he is being held here for care, if you take my drift.
Family embarrassment is
Yes,
an
exactly.
enormous barrier.
Black sheep of the family. But what I have been able to ascertain is that what was the prologue to this was that he was dosed with some sort of concoction. He speaks of apples, so I don't know if he's talking of cider or something. But he indicated that after having consumed this draught, this beverage, that his mind left his body. And it is clear that is where the break occurred. From there on, most of what you get in detail is fantastical. Great icy plateaus and strange vistas and cities at the bottom of the ocean and all sorts of. Well, each time we talk with him, there's more weird details, but the real weirdness is the screaming, and he'll kind of detail about that. He says it has forced us to sedate him quite frequently. We've had a doctor in to look at his larynx. He's managed to cause damage over time to it, and we've had to have him treated for that.
My goodness. Have you tried hypnosis?
And you see him look, well, that is.
I know that for us modern physicians, something that appears not to follow a chemical route seems unlikely. But given the circumstances you're describing, have you anything to lose?
Well, I suspect not.
It seems to me he's struggling to confront directly what what he experienced, and until he does, and I assume we're on the same page here, until he does confront that, you are unlikely to be able to make progress with him.
All right. I think that can be arranged. Yes. You are practiced in this?
It's a technique I found very helpful in dealing with some of my more complicated cases.
Well, with your permission to allow me to observe, of course.
That would be fine. Of course, whether what he says will reveal the truth, or what his mind makes of the truth, is unknowable at this stage. But certainly, I'd be very happy for you to sit in.
So let's we kind of cut to a scene. It's a plump young man. He has these spectacles on him. His hair is thinning. He looks pale. You can tell that he is sort of on edge when you arrive, and Martin will explain, we're testing some new things, we just want to do this, and kind of brushes past the consent or anything there, and says,
well,
this is,
to be honest, given that the family is simply paying to have him contained, I doubt that. I think consent will probably have been signed away.
So Wilfred has suggested a cunning plan if you want to.
If you don't want the doctor to overhear your hypnosis,
I hadn't thought of
him first.
I mean, it isn't psychic mesmerism, I think we've established. So
Yes.
it does require a willing participant, at least in
But he
part.
is willing. He wants to see this happening.
I think we're covered here, in as much as I'm going to rely on the fact that I'll be able to convince Martin that these are allegorical descriptions, if it gets at all magico sensible.
Absolutely. Let us turn to the hypnosis page in our guidebook.
I was going there myself.
So the first thing you want to do is a simple hypnotic state, difficulty 3, to establish that.
So let's roll. Let me think. So and then I just need to know how much to keep back, really, in order to get to the more deeper bits and pieces. I've got 8 to deal with.
Okay. So once you've successfully established that, you will have free 3 points for future uses of psychoanalysis on them.
Okay.
That's for future. Just to know that that's sort of down the road here. But right now you're trying to recover memories, right?
Yes.
Now, this is a difficulty 4, but also, that doing this and forcing him to relive this will cause the same amount of stability loss as he lost previously. So you will need to do psychic triage to mitigate that.
Okay. Well, that's a different pool, so I'm okay with
Right.
that.
I've got. Let's start with the hypnosis.
Okay. Well, I think I will spend 2 from it. No, I'll spend 3. Let's not mess about. 3 from his hypnosis.
Well, difficulty 3, so 2 is fine.
Oh yes, sorry, I keep forgetting that there is a calculation to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 2d6
or 1d6. This is not.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it isn't. Sorry, 1d6. I will get back in the groove in a moment. 4 plus 2 is 6.
Yeah. So you will speak with him. He's hesitant, but eventually he will settle down, and you will get him into that calm state. And then you wish to draw him back. And what is it you want?
What I want really is some clear idea of what MacMath is actually doing. Either a description from Niles, or yeah, I think I want a description of whatever rituals or ritual MacMath is seeking to perfect.
Okay. Let us have you roll your hypnosis. This is difficulty 4.
Okay, so this time I will spend 3.
And how much are you spending on that
Triage.
that triage? Yes.
You make psychological triage at a difficulty 3 instead of 4. It costs you only 1 psychoanalysis point instead of to temporarily negate a person's stability condition. So I think if it would cost me 4, I will spend 4 psychoanalysis.
Okay.
In order to buffer it for him. And then
So,
roll d6 plus 3.
okay.
Oh, that is a 1. So that is 4.
You are just on the edge. The what you will get is cryptic, and like even with the triage, you can tell whatever this experience was, and I think you can establish that MacMath gave him something that separated his consciousness from his body, and sent him out unprepared into the beyond. And he saw something there that shattered him. And I think that there will be in this talks about MacMath. He talks about the Grail, talks about the well, he talks about the orchard, he talks about the golden apple of the sun, talks about Iden, talks about the harvest. He talks about the other Hayden. He talks about the servants. Talks about the plan, the way of prolonging one's life, of living through eternity in a new way. And I think the thing that will crack him, where he kind of breaks out of this, is that he then kind of fades into describing like that visionary trip that he made with his mind. And he talks about, and then I was in the first chamber and I saw the serpents, and I moved into that second chamber, and he describes and some of that same dream imagery that you got when Richard touched that, and then there was the red dragon, and it slumbered, and I knew that it would awake, and it looked at me, and it knew me. And that's when he starts screaming.
And then the 2 attendants will restrain him and sedate him, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Is there anything I can actually do for him?
Not in a short amount of time. I think, again, this is the kind of thing that it requires. His sanity mechanically is broken. It will take time and work to get him assessed. You can obviously make a hypnosis roll to try and ease him for a time here.
I'm inclined to try that.
Okay, that's difficulty 5.
I will spend all 3 of hypnosis
Okay.
remaining.
Did Arthur get a free pool? You mentioned earlier.
That's a psychoanalysis. So if he were to work with this patient long term,
Hmm.
he would have a pool of 3 towards that.
Well, look, that's 5. That's 8 on
Okay.
on the roll. So
So
I hope that he
like
does
they go to sedate him, but you will get him calmed.
calm down, Niles. Niles, it's okay. You're safe here.
Uh,
These are good people.
You have to kind of eventually put him into a slumber, but you will stop him. And Martin is impressed. That was much more lucid than we've gotten out of him before. Still
Clearly
deranged.
deeply disturbed.
Yes.
Deeply disturbed. I'd like to undertake a program of work with him, long-term work, if that was possible. In the first instance, I think perhaps to visit him weekly if I can.
What do you want to make spend wise to convince? I think now we're talking like the doctor realizes this is maybe a little bit outside of
I
scope.
think I'm either going to spend from medicine to impress him with in effect, my credentials.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that seems fair. Medicine's perfect. He will say, all right, certainly I will talk with the head of the institute and indicate that you will be attending as a guest. We don't need to say anything to anyone else besides that, I don't think.
No, and were anything to come out of this in terms of any papers, research papers, for instance?
His eyes gleam.
Of course.
Yes, perhaps a co-authored.
One would of course ensure that appropriate credit went to his physician.
Oh. Yes, I think we can. I think this can be arranged. Absolutely.
And I think, I've managed to hold it together at this point, and as I kind of stumble away towards where perhaps Miss Grimaldi is waiting in the car, I don't know. There is so much that I need to decode here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as Isabella drives back to London or back to wherever Wilford is located, I will just be reciting to her. I mustn't forget any of this, Isabella. I will be reciting as much verbatim as I can, because I will have taken some notes, but as much verbatim as I can for Isabella to just have. And then I will say the same to Wilford
when
we get back together, just to make sure that we have as detailed and shared understanding of this.
Well, let's kind of cut to, if it's okay with Wilford and Isabella, let's cut to the 3 of you in Crispina's house there in Oxford, having a chance to talk and compare notes and decide on your next course of action.
Well, I think math.
I think math. I think that there's something. His search for the Grail, this alchemical Grail, which Sebastian mentioned to you, Isabella, I think is key here. Whether we can convince him to gift us some special knowledge about that, I don't know. But I'm guessing that I didn't get enough from Niles to be able to recreate McMahon's
I don't
work.
know. There were a lot of words there. We should pull all these volumes down and go, that big list of all the things.
Yeah.
And Lowell gave us, the golden apple, Iden, the harvest, the grail, of course, the first chamber with serpents, the second chamber with that dream.
Well, I think you can certainly
that sort of
put the serpents and things together in the context of your previous visions, and that is perhaps where his mind was drawn to at the end, and he has seen what Richard saw.
Yeah. I suppose my to go slightly meta for a moment, just to make sure we don't chase the wrong thread.
Sure.
We need a way to get to Faerie. I'm not sure if we've been given a way to get to Fairy here, or
Yes.
whether this is
Oh,
a
yeah.
way to get to Crispina. I'm just trying to sort
Oh,
out
yeah.
whether we should
From
use.
from the meta, the lead that you would follow with it, McMath certainly has other things, but you're following on a means of healing the
Okay,
the Fairy King.
fine.
You
So
have the means of passage.
fine. So is it 30 ethers to reach Fairy, and McMath's work to heal Oberon?
Yeah, the golden apple, I assume, is what we need.
That's what I'm wondering about here, because Isabella, you've been searching anything Fae related. I'm wondering if there's any overlap between what you found and anything that Niles has just told us. But I'm
And
going to look to Lowell.
well, let me clarify one thing. The Aether's ritual that you have is more of a questing knowledge ritual, extending your thing. You have a piece of music
That will get us in.
you have put together that you believe is the means of opening the passage at those ruins into the land of Fae.
That's the bit I'd forgotten.
So on the nastyometer, is McMath friend or foe?
I
How
think
we
he's
approach
dangerous. I think he's dangerous.
Independent
think-
jerk at the very least.
Indeed, and the I can't imagine he would share what he knows willingly. I mean, he's obsessive. He's clearly prepared to sacrifice people on the altar of his research, isn't he? You know, that's Niles. Lord knows what state the other one is in. So I suppose what I'm testing here is, do we have an alternative to confronting McMath? And I'm not sure we do.
Not yet.
Well, either we play to his arrogance
Mm-hmm.
with some kind of deceit method.
Do we
Or-
offer him the opportunity to come with us?
He'll see himself in charge. We'd
Well-
lose control very quickly.
Well, as long as he has what it takes to cure Oberon, that's the leverage we're after, isn't it?
I prefer to remove that knowledge from him and then use it ourselves. Or at least duplicate the knowledge and use it ourselves.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Isabella, what are you thinking?
But she's nodding along with Wilford.
Okay. Arthur's natural naivety of taking an unstable alchemist into Fairy and assuming that we would get the credit, I think becomes clear to him when he looks at Isabella, who's looking kind of, really?
Yeah, I think.
Seriously?
Yeah, I think there's that thing of he would use us. That is all that we would become. We have another
yes.
piece of his puzzle.
Of course, because yes, his tendency to use people as tools. Yes. Very good then. We need a strategy for getting what we need.
So shall we kind of cut to the location, to the area? I assume that you are kind of checking around before you go in to knock and say hello to him.
It was quite near Sudbury, I believe, wasn't it?
It is. He is in Suffolk, and he. Thank you. He is near Bury St. Edmunds, on the ley line that kind of connects that. But there is a village that is a ways out from that, with a big estate and a surprisingly off the beaten path for you road. You're a little surprised by that, and the village itself, when you arrive there, it's small, if they have an inn, it's maybe a hostel for walking tour travelers, but very little beyond that. There is a common house, of course. But I think as you three come in, you will see that there are, as you kind of arrive early in the morning, that there are people gathered around in the village, and you can see that they have tools and ladders, and they are kind of all gathering up like they're getting ready for something.
I think a spend of streetwise to ask around.
Don't waste streetwise, because it's more generally useful than the.
I've got a lot of streetwise.
He's got a lot of streetwise.
Okay, well, it's just I've never had to use biology, and I think it's apple harvest time.
Well, I think it's not apple harvest time.
Oh, right.
But Wilford, tell me what like you kind of the three of you park a ways away, and Wilford, what are you doing?
I think this is a paper bag full of sort of long kept humbug sweets, and basically offering it to the clearly lower class children, and just asking, you know, what the kerfuffle is about. You know, is it a local festival?
And you know, the children are a little nervous. You're a stranger, but you will eventually brace one to talk to, and they'll say, parents don't like to talk of it. The laird has sent for the people. They have to come. There's a sign that says, you know, that you can work and volunteer, but everyone knows they have to go. If they don't go, things are bad. But they won't talk to us about it.
Oh, okay. Well, you best be on your way. And I will quickly flash back to my colleagues and say, basically, he's summoned the locals with construction implements to go to his estate to do something, and they are fearful if they don't.
I would like to make that biology spend, because I'm wondering, because there's equipment you need to harvest apples.
It's essentially they've got the ladders, they've got the knives for doing the cutting, and a few of them maybe have you know, a tool belt or things like that. So they are most definitely braced for that, rather than any more sophisticated kind of thing. You will notice, though, I think with that spend, these are folk that you are used to. You've like, they go and harvest apples and things like that.
Yeah. Right.
They are dressed with gloves. And a number of them have like kerchiefs tied around their necks. They are much more attentive to their safety than you are used to.
Yeah, because at this time, and indeed after the war, people would go out of the cities at certain times of year to take part in assorted harvests.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks like they're kind of after cutting very thorny roses rather than harvesting apples. I mean, I am wondering whether Wilford could infiltrate the work gang.
That's why I was thinking, filch some equipment
Well, just follow along.
Well, yeah, there's something to be said for if everybody got protection equipment, that I have some protection equipment.
Well, no, this is surely the time we use preparedness.
In the boot of the car we have.
Exactly.
Yes.
I've
Wilford,
got
I am
6
fine
preparedness.
with preparedness or with filch for gaining the proper equipment. Which would you prefer?
I'm going to go down preparedness, because I don't think I've used it before.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's a good question.
yes.
The child said something about there being signs up for volunteering. What
Yeah.
are these signs? What do they say that they're volunteering for?
You can look, and there are a couple of signs in the village that are like clearly reuse, and they are looking for labor, come to the estate, and they're very vaguely written.
And there's no strong arming here, right?
That is
Like
correct.
I'm used to in the US, if you're gonna like push people in to do a thing, you've got men with guns or at least blackjack standing around there to impress them.
The people are gathered. You have the sense, I think this is a reasonable thing for you to have the sense, is that there is kind of a lottery, like a discussion amongst the people. And some people go and some people stay. Like they're negotiating about who will go and who will stay.
I think, Wilford, if you volunteered to take someone's place, they'd let you do it. They might tell us what's going on.
True, as long as my sacrificeometer is starting to yes, go and swap. And they're like, yes, please swap places with me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I will use preparedness then to have similar equipment in the car. Stuff like gloves for changing a tire, some cold weather kit, etc. So it's not in investigative skills, it's a general skill.
Yeah. So I think this is difficulty 4. If you roll particularly high, you might have some kind of ladder tucked away.
I mean, for what it's worth, I've got 6 to spend. Do you want me to check? Because I notice you've only got 2 there.
No, I'll spend all 2. Hey, let's see what happens. 1d6 plus 2.
Oh yeah,
7.
Yeah, I think you've got not the greatest ladder, but a very basic ladder to work with. One of those wooden, like, pull out into 2 parts and still only like an 8-footer. But you've got that, but you've got some gloves, and you've got a sharp knife to use. And yeah,
following Isabella's recommendation, I will volunteer. I will stand and say, I'm up for hard work, honest day's work.
And you see them all look at each other because you're a stranger. And one of them comes over to you and says, I think we've got enough folk for the harvest.
I'm from around these parts. I'm from Bury. I used to work in Green King. I know all about harvesting. I've harvested many a hop and many a barley, and I will spend reassurance to try and convince this guy that I am his man.
And you can tell that they are reluctant, not because you're a stranger, but because they don't want to put someone else at risk. But they will grab an older gentleman who looks maybe a little bit frailer than the others, and they'll say, Ross, this gentleman's going to take your place. And Ross will come over. Thank you, sir.
No problem, Ross. No problem.
And they will gather and do the walk from here out to the grounds. Isabella, Arthur, what are you doing during this? Let's start with Isabella. Yes.
I mean, she's a little trepidation. We're pretty much sending Wilford into some magical working of this guy, right? Or something weird.
That seems reasonable. For your
Yes.
assumptions, yes.
So yeah, I think I might spend a cult to get a sense of like the signs and like the borders. I guess I want to know like
Sure.
what is the thing for entering this and for leaving is see if I can understand any part of that.
Sure. And I think that we'll assume this is kind of, doing some surveying. The grounds are surrounded by a high stone wall in places and a low stone wall in others. I mean, that's clearly some effort has been made to maintain that wall. And I think that you can tell that's a working, that there's some energy and some work done to maintain that kind of borderline barrier. But I think the thing that you will see is that there are woods on the ground that kind of run along the edge, but in a gap through one of them, you will see that there is deeper in, closer to the household, an orchard. But you are very much used to, you come from the Southwest. You've seen the farms around here. You're very much used to, you do trees in rows, but it looks very chaotic to you. And it will take you a bit to kind of, as you're looking around, to realize that the orchard is a circle, and not just a circle, it is a spiral towards something in the center, and it's deep enough that you can't tell what lies at the center of that. Does
Oh
that
my
seem
goodness.
fair?
That seems horrible though. And yeah, and I do think she looks at Whitewood and she goes, well, we're sending Wilford in. What are we going to do in the meantime?
I think, Isabella, that one of us, perhaps someone with some practical and useful skills, should keep an eye on what's going on in that orchard. Because, and that tree over there, I think, would give a view into the orchard without necessarily revealing oneself. What do you think?
And she sort of looks at him and she goes, sure, give me a moment. Yeah, I guess I'll spend my preparedness a little bit just to have sensible shoes and a pair of dungarees to swap into.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's difficulty 3.
Okay. And I didn't mark my thing back up, so I will spend 2. And fails, dice room. I was sort of pleased I hadn't had to roll yet, but now we'll destroy that. So okay, so 1d6, and I'm adding 2 to the result, so that's a 5.
So absolutely not a problem there.
Okay. All right. And I look at that tree. I can do these things. I can do crazy stuff like that. So I will climb up to the top of the tree to get an observation of what the ritual of them entering this
Okay.
ends up looking like.
And Arthur, while that is going on, where are you positioned?
I think as old Ross turns away, I think I will be just leaning against a tree, looking interestedly. And did you say there was a public house here?
Yeah. It's an
And
English village. Of course, it's a public house,
okay, I
right?
was just checking in. And will suggest to old Ross that this is very interesting. Could I buy you a drink, sir?
Well, it is a little early, but I wouldn't say no.
And really, I want to find out from old Ross what exactly is going on here. Does this happen often? Why are people wearing heavy gloves and protecting exposed skin when in fact they appear to be going to harvest what exactly?
What do you want to spend?
I think this is strong on reassurance. But I think I'm also prepared to establish my credentials by spending archaeology or anthropology or even biology to make the point that I have a professional interest in this sort of thing, but distinctly not the occult.
Here is what you'll get before I kind of flash back to Wilford here. He will say, well, we've always harvested for the Lord. That's always been a thing. And the fall has always been, and is always generous with us to come and take. And we would get a basket, and he would take one apple from each and give us the rest.
Goodness me, that's terribly generous.
It was. But then
the look on your face tells me it is not quite so generous these days.
His son came back years ago and dug up the apple trees and moved them.
Really?
And then did something. I don't know if he's like an agronomist. Is that the word? But they come at a season twice a year.
So, my goodness me, that's remarkable. Where did you want me to make that spend from? Biology or reassurance?
I think reassurance.
Fine.
And he had his harvest, and he didn't give any to the people. He pays us. We get coin. But no apples. I wouldn't want any of those anyway. And I think he just kind of nods and trails off there. Wilford, the gentleman who sent Ross off, kind of falls back with you as you're walking up the trail up to the household. He'll say, you put your ladder on the tree, make sure it's steady, make sure it's very steady. Don't reach too far. Don't reach too far for the apples.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you, my man.
And he's like, no, I really, I mean it. You get your gloves?
Yep. Got some good gloves there. What's the pay?
And he names a decent pay.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
He says, the Lord doesn't like us to munch down. So don't Don't eat any of the apples.
Oh no, I wouldn't. No, that's wrong. Honest day's work for an honest day's business.
He says, just the trees are a little shaky, so be real careful.
Oh, good advice. Thank you very much. And I would like to sort of then draw back a little bit. Can you give me a sort of time estimation of how long it will take us to get from village to Lord's Manor?
Let's say half hour.
Excellent. I think within half an hour I could hang back enough to cast a quick 5-minute spell
Okay.
and then join back to the others, if that sounds practical.
Sure. What are you casting?
I would like to cast Goodwill of the Forest.
Let's take a look at that. What animal are you targeting?
I would like to target a bird, something like a dove or a wood pigeon.
Okay. I think a wood pigeon sounds reasonable. So it's going to cost 2 stability, just flat, and then there is a stability test, difficulty 4.
I will spend 3, so that's 5 in total.
Yep.
And I will roll.
Tell me what that spell looks like. It only takes 5 minutes to cast. You can kind of do it as you're going along. What does it look like to do that?
I think it is sort of singing a song in lyrics that are not English, some language that is long forgotten.
I won't make a Welsh joke here.
This is slightly intelligible. And yeah, basically the bird will come and land on my hand, and I will stroke it and look it in the eye, and then grasp it with 2 hands and throw it back up in the air. And that the grasping it and looking at the bird in the eye creates the bond, basically, that should last 24 hours. So let me roll 1d6 plus 3. 5.
Yeah.
At least I spent that.
Yeah. So this bird will hover around in the area. It will stay nearby. It will be around you as you head in. And I think that we will see you and the others marching up towards this spiral, the entrance to the spiral of this orchard. These apple trees are more verdant than you would have expected, certainly for this time of year. A more dense canopy of foliage up there, and they will begin to walk on, and you will see this gentleman standing there, and he's nodding along, and there went, oh, Lord, my Lord, stuff. And there is a moment as you kind of come up, and he says, I don't know you.
Well, I'm new around these parts. My mother came from round here. Yeah, I was away in the war and then some hospital treatment. But I'm back in the area now. Happy to help, my lord. Happy to help. Strong arms, these.
Oh, no, it's all right. We were always glad to have new blood.
Oh, that I am. That I am. Eager to serve, my lord.
They've told you the rate?
Yes, handsome pay, they said. Handsome pay. Fallen on hard time.
They told you not to eat any of the apples.
Oh, I wouldn't dare. That's your property, my lord.
Good.
Your property.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how you do.
Strong work.
We'll see you trail in behind them. Let's take our second break here, and then we'll continue on. So Isabella, you are up at the top of that tree, kind of watching over this. You see the procession as the figures enter into the spiral.
Yes.
And I think you'll look and you will see that towards the center, not the exact center, strangely enough, maybe offset a ways, there is an apple tree that looks taller than the others. And it is the symmetry is kind of broken for you in that. Why wouldn't it be like right there, but it's kind of off?
About like everything about this place? You mean?
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
Wilford, so you have a couple of abilities. One of those is you can always spend a point of stability to kind of open up your mind to see things of magic. That's a simple spend. And you also have the particular benefit of your Zoas.
Yeah, I think the Zoas is going to come in handy if something comes out and starts. But I would like to open my mind and try and see magic, flow of magic, see within this orchard if there anything is more magical than anything else. I will make that spend now.
As you move into here, I think that you can immediately tell you're in a ritual space. And there's a weird smell of both the sort of the rich loam of the earth here, like being in a woods, a real deep woods, but also a blood. That like that undercurrent of that coppery smell just underneath the surface there. And they will settle up on this first set of trees. It looks like they kind of move along in stages along the spiral, such that probably they'd hit the middle, that center point, as they get towards dusk. And they will start up. And the trees definitely have that feeling of something to them. And you will go up, climb up, put your ladder, get it set, and you'll start shaking and cutting the ones that don't give. And it's work, and it's labor, and you're used to this kind of thing. And you know it's warm out, and you will make your way along. And for you and for Isabella, there is a certain amount of kind of boredom here of doing the work. But it's just before noon, like they're gonna break for lunch, that kind of thing. When you've been doing this for a while, you've gotten used to the rhythm of it, and you go to reach for a branch. And as you reach for it, as your fingers are just there, the branch moves away and you feel yourself reach further, extend yourself, it's sort of instinctively, and then grab onto the tree to keep yourself from falling. Like the branch moved itself, drew itself away from you. And then kind of is back in place.
Okay, do any other of the fruit pickers sort of suffer any problems during the morning sort of stint?
They are cautious. They are slow and cautious through this. But I think that roll me a d6.
6.
I think there is a moment there, as it's just getting on towards lunch, just about the time that you have that moment, that you hear a cry, and you see one of the young men has fallen, and he has cracked himself on the ground. And you will see the others come down quickly. You can see that he has fallen, and he's rammed a branch, has pierced through his forearm, and he's even the way his arm is turned is probably broken as well. And the others will come up, and they're trying to get him up as quickly as possible, and they're trying to get him out of here, and he's saying, "Oh no, 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 this no, 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 I don't, I can't take the dreams again." And they're drawing him out of here to get him clear back to where the laird is there at the entryway. What do you do?
I will. Well, I'd like to use first aid to try and treat him.
Okay.
First.
Yeah. I think it's
2
difficulty
points.
4.
I will spend all of my 2 points.
Okay.
Reduce that to 0. And make a roll. I rolled 3 plus 2 equals 5.
Yeah, you'll get that out of him. Once you get it out of him, he starts to bleed. But there's less blood than you would expect. And you kind of look at that branch that went through him, and it's like the branch soaked up the blood.
I will rip off a bit of my trousers or something and clot the wound, and then I'll change the dressing, and then I'll pocket the blood-soaked bit of cloth. And yeah, I'd like to, as I've treated him, I'll say to the others that I'll escort him out back to where he came from.
Yeah. So you'll walk him out. The Lord is kind of waiting there, looks at him with concern, and sees and stops him, and he says, Thomas, you'll be paid the full day's wages. We'll give you we'll read you as that. Here, let me give you those coins now. And he does pull a handful of coins out of his pocket and give them to him, and says to him, "You've done a good day here."
I'll escort him back to the village and then return. I'll run back, Lord, so I don't miss any work.
And he hands you a coin. See to it that you and he get a good lunch.
Thanks, Lord. Thanks. And I will escort the young gentleman back to the inn, where hopefully Arthur and maybe Isabella.
Yeah, Isabella. We'll assume that like when you see Wilford heading out with this young man, that you can go along. And Arthur, are you good with me bringing the group together? So it's just lunch. You two are there. There are people talking in the public house, the pub here. When Wilford and this young man come in, like the conversation goes, "Dad,
just a little injury. That's all. He's safe. He's fine."
Bartender pours a whiskey and brings it over to the young man without saying anything, and puts it down in front of him.
What's old Ross's reaction to this?
Oof. Oof. Gets the shivers.
But I'm a doctor. I mean, that doesn't look like a terribly threatening wound. It'll be uncomfortable for a day or two, I would imagine. But
no, trust me, his arm's broken too. I can tell.
I suppose I'm what I'm trying to get to here is, I will offer to splint the arm now, and then have the conversation with Ross, perhaps, that says, well, he'll be fine. A couple of days, he should be able to use it. what I'm trying to get Ross to do is to just. Do you want me to make a medicine spend?
Well, what are you trying to do? He's already done first aid, so I don't think there's much. I mean, I think this is a
Okay.
casual spend for you to splint the arm.
What I'm interested in is Ross telling me why he's so worried about this. You know,
Okay.
accidents happen.
I think he says, and then I'm going to check in with Isabella here. He says, it's every year, every time I harvest, it's dangerous work. Always a few of us get hurt, get injured. We had a youngin last year that fell from the top of one of the high trees and broke his neck. And it was a good harvest that next year.
Okay. Isabella, all yours.
And I think that from talking to Sebastian, I know when McMath came here.
Mm-hmm.
So she stops and goes, so it's been like this for 8 years?
Aye.
Is his father still in the house?
His father passed not long after he came back.
He has an assistant. Do you ever see him? Young man. She'll sort of describe him from what she saw from the photographs of the group that Sebastian showed her.
There is a man, but he doesn't look like that. He's the watchman.
What does he look like?
It's hard to see because it's dark in the center of the orchard. That's where the high tree is. It's where the well is. It's where the watchman is. He keeps mind that no one goes up the high tree to get the apples there.
So no one harvests the apples from the high tree?
Someone must, but not us. Young man says, he's a knight.
Is he?
And Ross is like, oh, don't start with that. No, I've seen it like when the glint of the light off the well comes, just a little bit, it's like he's made of glass.
Interesting.
And Ross is like, oh, don't pay no mind to him. No, kind of, this becomes at that point sort of crazy talk for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, no.
And I think she goes, did you see him there the first year the new Lord had you walk the spiral?
Have a talk. No, there was another young man like who we met who was there that first year, but he hasn't been here since then. There was that pair of them. And one of them was, oh yeah, him and that fat boy that they had to drag away.
Yes. She'll sort of nod to Dr. Whitewood. He's still somewhat troubled. And essentially, I think what it is she wants to get a sense of, like, because they, in some ways, they act like this has been forever, and yet it's only been 8 years. So
the thing that you will pick up when talking to them is that there have been some people who have been able and ready and have not sent people. And there is a superstition that that not sending someone from a family is bad luck. They talk about little accidents. They talk about little problems like that is built up over time.
Okay.
And it's become this thing where, as you say, they feel like it's always been this way.
And then she,
Question.
yeah,
Sorry.
go for it. Go for it.
No, I just think that the question now is, do we send Wilford back in there? Or is that too big a risk? Because it
Well,
seems to me that we need to get that apple.
I think discussing over an excellent ploughman's lunch
Yes.
and half a mild in a corner of this inn. So I will relay what I've seen, and I will say the trees are magical, and they are drinking people's blood. And if somebody has an accident, the harvest the next year is better. I can smell blood, in the loom of the soil. So my initial plan is go back in, try and get an apple. Well, I can get some normal apples, which are clearly of value. That shouldn't be a problem. I could try and steal some of them and bring them back, and maybe we could do some alchemical analysis of it. Or do you need me to go to the high tree?
Well, that's my question, really. It seems to me, I'm prepared to believe that this spiral is set up as the way, perhaps, and getting the people in to harvest. It's not because the apples of those other trees are of any particular value. It is that it allows people to have accidents. It creates accidents. That sacrifice feeds the harvest and feeds the high tree. And that he's doing this not because he needs these apples, but because he needs whatever the high tree is growing as a result of the accidents caused while harvesting these apples.
I'm interested in Isabella's opinion.
And she sort of stops and goes, well, sometimes a well is a passage between worlds. Is the high tree where we would find the significant apple, or is it through the well?
I guess if I was, I mean, I think I'm prepared to burn some occult here, but is there
Sure.
anything, particularly given that I've kind of had my brain blown by this idea that simile and it none of this needs to make sense, but is there something about combining the apple with the water of the well that would create the alchemical mixture that we're after?
Make an occult spend.
There she blows, one away.
If the well is another device in his alchemical arsenal, if that is another form of the Grail, then he is watering the roots of these trees with the blood of sacrifice and the water of the Grail, and using that to grow these fruits. And the well is probably why that tree is offset. The well is next to that tree. And it is that apple that is the purpose of this whole thing.
So, overcome the watchman, get a golden apple, conceivably get some water as well.
Day's work, that.
This is not something we can leave to dear Wilford alone. It's on at this moment, I'm wishing that Mr. Fraser was here, because he would do something rash.
So I have dynamite.
Well, no, I was going to ask Isabella, in the car, do you have some chemical nastiness that we could poison the well or this orchard with?
After we've got the apple.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
And dynamite.
And dynamite too.
Well, I mean, put dynamite aside for the moment. I was thinking that some way to engineer a distraction so people are running all over the place. Because we can't afford to put the villagers at risk, can we? There has to be a reason why they're not going to get caught up in this.
They'll be
Don't
done
they
at
finish
dusk.
at dusk? So we can
So
go
we-
there in the middle of the night.
Oh, of
Yes.
course we can. Thank you for reminding me of that, Isabella.
Yes. And I would think that midnight would be the significant moment, wouldn't it?
Well, my
Ah,
concern is
yes.
that midnight after a harvest is when friend McMath may be doing some harvesting, perhaps. In which case, perhaps
Exactly.
he does the work for us. And
My
we simply
question
tip
is
the apple.
if he has a ladder and we were to tip that, would that for certain break his neck? Oh, sorry. It's a magical ladder. It would have a better chance.
So what I'm hearing is the villagers will finish
Yeah,
up
we
their
don't say that
harvest.
any of that there. Yes.
And there are minor accidents, scratches, bruises, maybe a twisted ankle, but the broken arm and the blood through the branch seems to have sated the orchard for the moment. And he will, like, as they leave, he pays them all, and he tips them, and he thanks them for their work. And they will put the bushels of baskets, or the bushels in wheelbarrows, and roll them up to the estate, and set them out. And McMath will wish them a good night. You can tell he tips them. He gives them a little extra money. And he does, if Wilford doesn't return back, there is
I will return.
Okay. So he will look at you and he will say, "How did everything go?"
Oh, good day's work. Looking forward to spending the coin on some ale.
Good. Well, look forward to seeing you again if you're
Oh,
still
I'll be
around.
back.
Oh, good.
I'll be back aboard.
And he will see you off.
I would like to leave the ladder in the orchard, if that's
Tucked
okay.
away. I think that's a conceal roll.
Concealing away then. Conceal. Oh, I've got 1 point in it. Hey, what's wrong with doing a roll?
That's absolutely.
1d6 plus 1. Here we go. Let's see what we get. 3.
It is. You get it in there, but it is a little exposed.
Okay.
And so let us cut to evening, after
Midnight
dark.
in the orchard.
Yeah. Darkness has fallen. And the three of you are going to make your way onto the grounds. I do think this is a stealth roll, but someone can do. The others can piggyback onto this. It just takes 1 point to piggyback.
That's all I need. I don't care who leads. I will piggyback.
Okay. Isabella, you are muted.
She has 5 in stealth.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So
I can do it.
Wilford, Isabella, who's leading the stealth then?
I'll defer to the lady's prerogative.
Oh yeah, certainly. I will lead the stealth move.
How much
then.
do you want to spend? Difficulty is a 4 right now.
Well, then I will spend, and then for every one of them, it goes up, right?
No, it does not. I was
okay.
mistaken about that.
Well, then I will spend 3.
Okay. Then let's have you.
Actually, no, I'll spend 4 so that no matter what it is we do, better than the minimum.
Okay.
So
And Wilford, you marked off 1 stealth.
actually I have 2 points, so I'll put in there. Okay, there we go. And then that means it's 3. Okay, let's
So
do
roll.
this. I'm rolling 1d6 again and adding 4 to it. So that's a 6 total.
So that's a 6. So it isn't a spectacular success, but
No.
we will see the 4 of you make your way along through here. Those trees lean in as you walk along here. You can feel it. You can hear just the slightest rustle as they kind of make that canopy, almost an arch that you have to travel down. And you will get a ways in, Wilford, and you go and you look for that ladder, and it is not there.
Somebody stole my ladder.
Now, Arthur, would you roll me just a flat D6?
A 4.
Okay. All right. So the 3 of you will make your way quietly along here, and you will come to the entryway where it breaks out into the center. There is an apple tree of enormous size. Beautiful foliage. You don't see here visible, especially in the dark, that any apples on that tree. You expect, if there is one, it's hidden up in the canopy up high. And there is a well here, old. It's clearly been repaired a bit, but it is there. And the roots of this apple tree go out deeply. You have to kind of step over them to get to here. A little bit different than you would expect. It's not. They're tangled as much, almost more like an oak than anything. And you can tell even here in the darkness that there is a figure standing nearby that tree. More of a silhouette given the lighting that you have.
I would like to say, Tom Haddon, is that you? And what I'm hoping to do is to distract the Guardian to give Wilford and or Isabella an opportunity to scale the tree.
All right. Who is going to be scaling this tree?
Not wanting to play the meta game, but there is only one person of today's crowd with a large athletic skill. So I think Hobson's choice has prevailed, Lowell, and it will be Wilford.
Okay.
Like a squirrel up a tree.
Wilford, you go dashing over there to...
Well, I don't think that. I think it's about, while I distract the, Wilford comes at it from the shadowy side kind of thing. I don't.
Oh, absolutely. When you raise your voice in here, when you say Tom, that figure turns and it is at you. It is across that ground.
Flee!
I'd
hope it gives chase.
It comes right, and you will see this figure. It looks like it is clearly not a real person. It's
Anymore.
made to look like a person. There are bits of glass kind of embedded in like places like it's fallen apart and the glass has been put into fixed spots like patches. It has a face, but there are bits where that is fallen apart, like and it's the person is the thing is thick, like thicker than a being ought to be, and it does come running at you. So you're gonna flee.
Well, I'm going to try and lead it a merry dance.
Okay, so trying to run back into the maze, or are you running around this grove?
I think running around the grove, trying to keep it away
That's
from.
a good plan. Okay, so Arthur, let's have this thing roll. I have an 8.
Ah, do you? I see.
Yes.
I will roll d6 plus all of my athletics then. Or can I
All
use
right.
fleeing?
Oh, it is definitely fleeing. Yeah.
Oh, then I will spend. You got an 8. Hellfire.
I have an 8.
I will spend. I will spend. 6 of my 8 fleeing.
Perfect. Just don't
on the
roll a
grounds.
1.
Indeed not. Indeed not. That is a
3.
9.
Can I also have you and Isabella make stability test difficulty 4? The potential cost for this is 3 points of stability.
Then I will spend. I really don't want to crack at this point. I'm going to spend 4 stability.
You should only spend
roll.
3 at the most.
Yeah, 3.
Oh God, I can never get this calculation right. Intuitively, I just don't get it. That's a 7.
Okay, so you are fine. You just lose what you spent. Isabella?
I also am spending 3, and I roll a 1, so it's a
So
good
you
thing
make
I
it,
did
you just
it.
spend
Yeah.
your 3.
Mhm.
So you will see this thing come rumbling forward, and Arthur starts to run around the edges of this grove. The thing that is also causing him trouble is it's almost like the roots are shifting underfoot to make it more difficult as this figure comes running by. I think the thing that'll strike you in the little bit of light that you see as this figure comes running around is there is a face there, but it's almost like someone like put clay over a human head, like thick. And there's just a moment where you've seen the pictures of Tom Haddon, and it vaguely has that look. What do you do, Isabella, as Arthur begins to lead this thing into chase? We'll come back to Wilford heading for the tree itself.
I'm waiting for the signal to how should we say, destroy the well, so to speak. I have a lovely solution for it. It will be a lot of bright light and a great big explosion, and then the well will be filled with salt after that.
So you're making your way to the well.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm making my way within tossing distance of the well, I
Okay,
think is the
fair
way
enough.
to put it.
Wilford, you are going to try and climb this tree.
Indeed, I am.
This tree is actively trying to not have you climb it. So I have a
No
9.
tree will be the master of me.
I have a 9 right now.
9 is that's really good. That's really good. I will spend 9.
Wow. Okay.
I need this to happen.
All right. So go ahead and roll.
15.
That is a 6. Now, had you rolled a standard success, my next thing would have been, now you need to roll to grab the apple. However, you will shimmy up this thing, and this tree is fighting you. Like the branches are in the way, the spurs of it, the all of it, like that it is just kind of cutting. Get some grazes and abrasions, but you will climb up to it. And when you get up into the canopy of this thing, to you, it looks like the tree goes up another 100 feet. And we will see you clambering up it, almost as like it extends itself away from you. But you will see this golden apple at the top, and you will climb up, get up to it, and you'll put your hand on it, and you will pluck it off of there, and you have the apple in your hand. Now the trick is getting down. Arthur, this thing continues its pursuit of you. Are you changing up your fleeing in any way I should know about?
Only in as much as I'm hoping to be able to spend both fleeing and athletics.
Well, let's see what it rolls.
To avoid, these routes.
So that is just a 7 that I have.
That's just a 7. I would like to spend.
Can I remind you, Alan, that you could create a pool? Maybe if you have a skill that could assist you.
Outdoorsman would be appropriate.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more biology.
I think that's a little.
That's a stretch.
That's a stretch there, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm technically not very capable, it has to be said. So no, I will spend 2 from fleeing and another 2 from athletics to get roll with 4.
That seems reasonable.
That's a 9.
That is a 9. It closes the distance to you. It gets up close. It is the little tripping, the little bits of hesitation, but it's lumbering, but it is relentless in its pursuit of you. There is at least one moment where the hand kind of comes close and tries to grab onto your arm, and you have a certainty that had its hand gripped there, it would have just bent and broken your arm like a twig. Isabella.
Yes. As soon as oh, did someone say something?
Yes.
Really?
You hear from behind you that clearing of a throat.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
I pretend like I'm like that, but I'm actually just keeping my eye on Arc 2 well as I turn to see the Lord.
Yeah, you see McMath there. You see that he has a blade in his hand, a wicked long, sharp mirrored blade that he is looking at you, and he begins to stalk forward towards you, blade in hand.
So, essentially, if Wilford called out that he has the apple, then have I heard anything? I go,
Yeah,
I think I'll go, got it? That is what I'll call.
You hear that from way in like way in the distance. You hear somebody say, got it. Just the most faintest cry of that, Wilford.
Yeah, because I don't actually know that she's engaged in combat down there or about to engage. So I think it would be fair to respond, even though in hindsight, clearly telling them that I've got the apple is probably the worst thing ever. So yeah, no, I will shout down, got it.
You hear that, and you see McMath hears that voice from up and looks at the canopy of the tree. What do you do, Isabella?
Well, upon hearing that, I do the thing that I've prepared. So, fortunately, because of the wonders of science, there's a castor process that creates elemental sodium metal. And I have seen that in use. I had seen a demonstration of what it does when you throw a small amount of this into water. It is spectacular. And while it's far too dangerous to use in metal, I was able to get a sample of it so that, well, let us say that I know that there are some bigger foes out there in the world. So I have essentially a maybe walnut-sized pellet of this stuff, but it's like sort of, it has glass around it. It's like contained so that the water can't get to it. And as he looks up and away, I turn and I chuck this into the well so that the
Okay.
glass breaks and the metal falls into the well water.
What do you want to roll this with?
Oh,
Is
that's a
this
good
explosives?
question. I could do it with explosive because it's definitely going to
Yeah.
explode.
And you've had time to wait. I think because you said you were ready and preparing, I'm not going to make a throwing roll. But I
Okay,
think it's about the preparation that you've done.
all right. So you would like me to use,
Difficulty 4,
okay,
explosives would be fine.
all
You want
right,
to use
that
that.
seems good. Yeah, so, and I guess I'll spend 6
Okay.
because my dice are horrible, but I would like a chance at a decent result.
It's
So I rolled
athletics.
6. I rolled 6 and add 6, so that's a 12.
So you will throw it. It will arc. You'll see him kind of look, kind of does that slow motion, and it hits in there, and you hear the crack, and then immediately lights up, and he screams out, and he screams, "My grail!" And he goes running past you towards it. Like his concern for you is gone. Like you've done something to his working. And he comes running at that. Wilford, you hear a and still that please roll to get down from the tree safely.
Okay, I would like to convert some outdoorsmen
Sure.
to
That seems
tree
reasonable to me.
Shimmying skill.
Yeah. And McMath is like stumbling over to the well.
And she's like, and I think she starts to go, don't do that. And then she stops and steps away further.
Difficulty is 7 to get down, Wilford.
Okay, that's fine. I will convert 1 outdoors and 3 points from athletics. Give me +6.
Yeah.
9.
So 3. So I think it is a fast shimmy down. Arthur, 1 more fleeing here. In the midst of this, and then I want to resolve what Isabella does. I think the difficulty is significantly less now.
Yes, it would have to be very low indeed now.
Difficulty is going to be a 4.
Oh, really? Oh, well, then I have a fighting chance. But
Alan, you have build points.
I do, but I just.
Oh, come on.
Spend your points.
Damn it all. I will tip 4 more into athletics.
But why not 1 into outdoors and then get a pool of 3? Because you've hung around with me long enough.
I feel athletics is reasonable. Outdoor spend at this point might be a little bit more pushing it.
So I will spend therefore 5 athletics.
Okay.
And get a 7.
Yeah, you are moving away. You come across the path that McMath is on. So this thing has to stumble the other direction, is trying to come at you. Isabella, you've described this. What happens next with the well?
There's that thing where you can hear it hits the side of the well, and then it does the ting, ting, and then it hits the water. First you see the light, and then this column of fire, of white hot explosive, rapidly continuing as it's moving chemical reaction goes on and it comes shooting up through
Are
the well
you
like a firework.
enforcing this with your magic?
Ooh. Yeah, I think I am.
Okay. So McMath rolled a 1.
Oh no.
So I think there is that bit where he rushes over to get to that edge of that well. And that is just as that column comes up. He's leaned over, looking down into the well as it goes aflame. And I think that all of the trees here catch fire at once. They immediately light into torchlight. And you hear a scream and a stagger. This thing that's following Arthur will collapse to the ground. You will see the legs of McMath as he tips over into the well on fire. And there is a montage of the three of you running as best you can between these burning trees. This is an athletics test to get out of here unharmed. Let's say difficulty 5.
Oh God.
Well, I think we're all following Isabella now.
All right. I'm gonna put my build points into athletics then.
No, Isabella, you've got fleeing.
I know,
Yes,
I'm gonna use
you can-
both because I'm gonna be the pool for you guys.
Okay.
Okay, but quick, if I activate my Zoas lol, it says I would be protected. Would that cover me?
From an attack. This isn't an attack. This is an environmental issue.
Okay. So it doesn't.
Your Zoas protects you from somebody deliberately trying to harm you.
Okay, fair one.
Yeah. Like if you were the person being chased instead of Arthur, you could have done that to keep from being grabbed or something like that.
I can generate some with outdoors. Is that okay? Some athletics?
That'd be fine. Each of you just needs to spend 1 point.
Yeah. I will spend my remaining build point to create
athletics or fleeing.
That's a good point. No, I will put it into athletics.
Okay.
Because that has different value.
Right. You
so
spend
I put
1.
my 1 into it.
Wilfred, you spend 1. Isabella, let's
Yes.
have you roll.
I will do fleeing the things. So what do I need to beat here?
You need to beat a 5. You need to hit a 5 or better.
Okay, I will spend, let's see, from my fleeing, I have 6. So I will do that. So 1d6, and mind you, I know how I roll, so I have no. So that's a 5 plus 6.
So
that's
it's
11.
a spectacular. Like I think that we see in slow mo. You get out, the three of you get out of the entryway before there's a crackle, and I think behind you we'll see that great tree come starting slowly. The boughs of it have caught fire absurdly and are cracking, and you will hear it as it all gives way. And you have the apple. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Everybody can get a build point.
So many build points.
And that's where we'll stop. We are playing in 2 weeks. That'll be the 19th. I'll check on the time and get us set for that, because next week is some sort of delicious British con. AirCon?
Will and I will be at AirCon in Harrogate next week.
Okay.
Yes.
And you get to see Donna at that point?
We do.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Do you know Lloyd Gann, who works for Modifius?
Yes, I played a couple of times with him, and I met him at UK Games Expo, as I remember.
I love him. He's one of the best people in the whole world, and he's one of those people that when you meet him, you're like, "Oh my God, how are you that tall?" So
yes,
I'll have to check and see if he's going to be there. But thank you all. Let's do a quick stars and wishes. We will take up next time at the ruins with that particular descent, We'll also check in with Will and kind of do what Richard has been up to in the meantime. So, Alan, can I start with you?
Oh, this is great. We had peculiar folk horror. We had it all happened today, and a chance for us to check in with our base. So no, I had a great time today. I love the idea Isabella finally got to blow something up. Some of us think it's about time. Wilford, there's this kind of picture in my mind of this rather scruffily dressed individual just throwing himself from arm to arm up a tree, like some kind of lower class orangutan.
What a reference! Oh my gosh!
And yeah, no, I thought you stitched that together beautifully. Thank you, Lol. The pacing was spot on.
Awesome. Anything wishes wise?
Oh no, just roll on.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, I liked the build-up stages. Isabella getting the information about the alchemical process, about McMaths, nicely then tying it in. I got to do a little bit of pre-work that then allowed Arthur. That I thought that scene was very nice in the asylum, pulling in some good skills. And I think to you, Lowell, 3 people, it's hard because you can't break down into 2-person teams, and one person work is always. I don't think Gumshoe is very good with one person. You might not have the skills, and you sort of get brick wall. So to put 3 people in together, that was a really beautiful final end of session. Really good chunk of adventure there. Burnt a lot of points from every single character. Some good. I think everybody was on tenterhooks there, and some really good RP from all my 2 other players. Making my job nice and easy, which is how it should be. So really, really good. Going forwards, just more of the same. It's such an enjoyable game with such enjoyable people. So more of that.
Awesome. And Sherry?
It was excellent fun. I think it was everyone playing to their strengths. It was a great. I love the hypnosis scene with Dr. Whitewood and essentially the whole thing with that big hospital was an excellent sort of zoom into a weird point in time. That's still after all of that was built up for the war. I mean, after the war. And
let me think. I want to thank you, Alan. I hadn't looked up that hospital beforehand. I'm really glad you looked that up because that really added some nice dimension and color to what we were doing. Really appreciate that.
It was amazing. And then Wilford continues to be such like the smartest salt of the earth character ever. I just really love it. So flexible, so figuring out exactly where they can fit themselves in and get what they need. It was great to watch, and a big point to science for having created that process that they could industrially create that chunk of sodium, because when you said the well, I was like, oh, it has to be something that can deal with water, and dynamite's only so good with that. So but no, a good chunk of sodium metal was a lot of fun, and thank you for letting me do that, to me it is big points to chemistry versus alchemy, and chemistry won tonight.
Yes.
So that was fun, and it was, as they said, excellent pacing. Well, thank you. It was exciting and interesting all the way through.
Anything wishes wise?
I am looking forward to figuring out how to use my stage magic, true magic, as things go on. I think that's kind of a fun idea. There's like essentially 5 hallmark magic like stage moves. So I think that gives me some things that I can pull up out of my sleeve, so to speak, to use.
That seems great.
If and when they're useful.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording.